Welcome everyone to the Greenhouse. I am your host, Jericho Green. But as you can see, if your ocular stems are functioning, I'm not alone. I have somebody here with me. You know him, you love him. Ladies, grab your towels. It is Dean Cain. Thank you, man.
Honored to be in the greenhouse.
Yes, man. And you are my first. You never forget your first. You're my first guest. I wanted to come out of the gate, hitting a home run. So I think we're about to do that, man. Thank
Let's
you.
go. Let's go.
So I wanted to ask you this, Dean. Um, as people may or may not know, you were adopted, and I do want you to kind of explain that a little. And we actually have that in common. My mom and my real dad split up. He wasn't really anything to write home about, and my mom found somebody better. They got married when I was 7, I believe, and then I was officially adopted when I was 13. But up until that point, he played the part. He was dad. He was there every day, did everything he had to, passing on knowledge and discipline and all the good things a father should do. But it was made official when I was 13. So I kind of understand that part of you. Like I said, we have that in common. And it's different being an adopted kid because yes, in our case, we had our mom and then a stepdad or an adopted dad. So you have that structure, but you don't share that blood. So there's always that's kind of the you're different from regular kids who have the both of their blood parents, but you still get everything you need. You still get that fatherly influence, that male influence, but kind of explain that whole process. You were very little when they got together. I think we're about 3 years old,
Yep.
but did you even notice that, or was it just you didn't even know until you maybe got older and they told you, hey, by the way, you're adopted, or was it just business as usual? This is mom, this is dad.
It was a weird thing, different from myself and my brother. My brother's 2 years older than me. So he had a bit of an adjustment to it. I think they were on like their second date, and I was like, Dad. I was just right in. He was like, okay. But I think I was just right in. And I knew he wasn't my biological father, but I don't know how I knew it or how when I was aware of it or how long I'd been aware of it, but he was just dad. He was just always there and he was dad. And I just didn't think twice about it. And he was that steady hand. Listen, he's been the strongest influence in my life, bar none, for helping craft who I am, my values, my morals, and my humanity. I mean, he has really been an amazing father. He's going to be 80 in October. Um, and we look nothing alike. It's hysterical because people will see us and they're like, "Oh yeah, I can see." I'm like, he is a 5 foot. He was 5'9". He's probably 5'7". English Dutch dude, and I'm 6 foot Japanese man. So we don't look anything alike.
Yeah.
And my son's 6'2" with blonde hair and blue eyes, with the same name as my dad, and those two sitting
Mm-hmm.
there together is just hysterical. There's just there's no physical bloodline, but he's been my dad from ever. I never had a problem with it. I never had an issue with it. Never. I knew he wasn't Japanese, but I knew I was Japanese. But I don't know. It didn't. Sometimes not being that bright is a gift, and so I just accepted it and was just happily motoring through life, and so fortunate to have him in my life. I do remember there was a bad time where he was going to go off and do a movie or something because he was a director and he was going to leave to go do a movie. And he said he wasn't coming back. And I remember that shattered me.
Mm.
And I think the way we reacted, being so shattered, made him come back, which is, I'm glad because I needed him in my life. And that was a way, again, he's the strongest influence in my life. But it didn't bug me that we didn't have a blood connection. It didn't bother me. Although I see it with my son, how we do have that blood connection. And there is a bit of a difference because you see so many of your own traits and features and things, features and traits in, hey, it works, puts them together. And, you look at this arm or his hand or anything, and you know that you made that, it's part of you. And I know when I see my dad, I realize that, we don't share that blood, but we share, something much, much better and something you couldn't ever replace. That bond is just unbreakable. So it didn't bother me. I just knew it, accepted it, cruised through, and didn't worry about it. But I never ever felt like except for that one time that I was ever going to lose my dad, or, I counted on him being, I knew he would be there. Just like I want my son to know that, like, if he decides to go to Cambodia, which I hope he doesn't do for some reason, and just go down there and, want to live with a tribe off grid, and he ends up in trouble, he knows I'm coming to get him.
Yeah.
And I will be there to save him, come hell or high water. I would do anything for him. And if he needs it, he knows I'm going to be there. And I like him having that confidence that my dad was always there is one of the reasons I was never afraid to try anything. Wasn't afraid to go on an adventure because I knew my dad would come and get me. Heck, I remember a teacher didn't really put hands on me. It's the wrong way to do it, but he did we were working on penmanship in 5th grade, 4th grade, or something like 5th grade. And I wasn't doing it just right. And the teacher came over and took my hands, kind of slammed them on the table, which ticked me off, made sure like that. And he kind of manhandled me a little bit. Then he let go. I stood up, I whipped that pencil at him, full bore, clean shot, and walked out of the classroom, went straight home, walked my ass right home. Went home. My mom was on the phone. We had a cord phone that had connected back in the day. She was talking on the phone. I walked in the door, slammed the door, walked to my room. Middle of the day. She was like, okay. She called Dad. Dad came home. Dad went up there, had a conversation with that teacher. And I had to go back and apologize for my behavior. But that teacher, sure as hell, never touched me in any way, shape, or form again after Dad's conversation. And that's my dad. He was always there for me every time for anything. I was having a real tough time in college football, and coaches yelling at me, and we had it's really tough. He came from Brazil, where he was shooting a movie. He hadn't seen a single game all year. He flew straight from Brazil to Princeton, New Jersey, where I was going to college. He showed up the day before the game, watched the game. I had my best game of my entire career to that point. And I was, I was thinking about leaving Princeton and going to UCLA, where people would respect me because I was a football player and I would be able to get all these wonderful things. I didn't get anything. You didn't get anything at Princeton. I got called a Neanderthal. And I remember, because it seemed so, barbaric. You're a football player, as opposed to, this was by a couple of my professors, and specifically this one guy, my Soviet politics precept guy, sort of like a grad student guy. Man, I'm not going to say his name, but he ticked me off. Anyway, so I was about to leave, and my dad sat there with me, and he went through it with me and listened to it all. And he had malaria at the time and didn't know it. But the first thing he did coming home was to come see my game and talk to me and sort of talk me off the ledge, so to speak. And I was ready to leave Princeton. And he's like, just come home after the season's over. We'll sit and talk about it. And then I had to go back and take exams, and, one step at a time, and, kept me there. I mean, that's just 2 examples. I could sit here and talk about it all day long, but he has just been the greatest force in my life. That's why I named my son Christopher after him. His name is Chris Kane. My son is Christopher Kane as well. And he's Christopher Dean Cain. He's got my name in the middle. But it really, being adopted for me, that's why I just know that, where my life would have gone, or I saw the paths it could have taken without my father to correct my path and help me along the way and teach me. I wouldn't be anywhere near the man or human being that I am today. So I owe so much of that to him. And I don't know your relationship with your dad, if it's as wonderful or great, but man, I am so appreciative. I thank God every day that this man became my father.
That's awesome, man. And, a few of the things you mentioned, dads have those superpowers, whether it be talking some sense into you before you maybe take the wrong exit in life, being in Princeton, and him coming to talk to you and telling you, all right, just, hey, after the season, come home, we'll reset, we'll talk. Or their powers of negotiation, like when you went up to the school and had to hit reset on your teacher.
Yes, he did.
And that you mentioned that shattering moment. How old were you when that shattering moment, when he said that he wasn't coming back? But
oh man, I think I was like 6th or 7th grade. So how old are you there?
Like 12.
Yeah.
12 something, 12, 13.
Like, yeah, I was like 12 years old. It was before 13. Because then after 13, I wasn't worried about anything but women.
Man, we'll get to that, Dean. We'll get to that. But I have a similar story with my dad. I was in the Sea Cadets when I was a kid, and we had an annual boot camp that we would go to. And so there was a packing list that you needed, you know, your uniform items, sunscreen, and a first aid kit. And they give you this long list with a little box next to it. You go down and check to make sure you have everything before you're shipped off 2 hours away to boot camp for 2 weeks. And it got to sunscreen. And so I think I was 12 years old, about the same time, you know, when you had your shattering moment. And it was an honest question. I raised my hand, and the lieutenant, he was the executive officer, and I said, do we have to bring sunscreen if we don't need it? Because this, you know, I lived in the Monterey Bay area. You only needed sunscreen 3 days out of the year. You know, I just saw it. I just saw it as one less thing to bring. And he goes, well, you're probably going to need it for your teeth and the whites of your eyes. So half of that went over my head. I knew that wasn't right, but whatever. So I didn't say anything. I was quiet. We finished. My dad came and picked me up in the afternoon, and I told him what he said. He said, what? And I repeated it. So my dad obviously saw more in that comment than I did. So the next day we come and he drops me off. Normally my mom would drop me off. My dad said, I'm going to take you this morning. And so he goes in there and he goes into the XO's office, Lieutenant Junior Grade Fitzgerald. I'll never forget this dude. He always looked like he was damp. His hair was like always, like his comb over was always stuck to his. Anyway, so my dad, he goes in there.
Moist.
Yeah, he always looked moist. He always looked like you'd have to wipe your hand off after you shook his hand, right? So my dad, and I'm following my dad in the office, and he goes, no, he's all, you stay out there. I'll talk to him.
Man, stuff gonna happen right now.
Yeah, you know? So he goes in there and he closes the door. 5-10 minutes later, my dad comes out and they shook hands and he left. That was it. My dad never told me what they said or nothing. But I tell you what, after that, when I had a question, oh yeah, so what do you need? He was very attentive.
What can we do?
What can I do for you? So he was very attentive and he was very kind after that. And
probably even less moist.
Yeah, he probably dried him up a little bit. But dads, yeah, I mean they're crucial. They really are. We've all seen, whether it be somebody we know or in a news story, we see what happens when dad's not there, and it's bad for everybody.
Well, I think that's a big, huge problem in our society these days, and some of these Marxists going out there wanting to get rid of the family unit. The family unit's is the building block for everything in our society. Yep. So it's crazy. It's crazy to me that, and it's funny you mentioned that even as a father, as a human being, you experience fear and trepidation about things. You do something to my boy, I don't care. There is no fear. Mm-hmm. There is it's an absolute, not a chance. And so that moment of the dad stepping in, no, son, you stay out here. I'm going to talk to this moist man right now. I just love that because, it's great because it's a no. This does not happen. I remember pulling my son out of, he hated school. My kid hated school. So he was in a little, he had a little, what they called resource, because he was bad with his math or his English or something like that and this and that. And so I was in public school and I was going through the whole process, sign all these damn paperwork things. And they go through their thing. And I watched the teacher kind of work with him. And I was like, and then the way she did it, I remember just going in there one day and just going, no, he's out. This is not helping him in any way, shape, or form. It actually bothers him for having to leave class and come over here and do this. And you're not good at it. And it's not happening anymore. And I'll sign whatever it is. And that's just the way it is. And I yanked him out of there. And I started working with him. And his grades shot through the roof. And he ended up at private school, a year later, placing into it and doing well. So it was a whole different thing. But I remember even that. I was like, no, he needs to be. I'm like, no, he doesn't. I remember even someone talking about like, he's hyperactive like a kid. They want to think about, whatever they give those damn kids. And I was like, if you think you're going to give this kid any sort of a drug for his being a boy, you're out of your mind. Mm-hmm. Zero possibility, and that's just the way you'll protect as a father is like, don't mess with
next level.
It is murderous.
Mama Bear, I got love for Mama Bear. Mama Bear is real too, but Papa Bear, watch out. I mean, there are things that you allow life to do things to you, whatever. But I can't. I can't. You junior or whoever, daughter, whatever, it's over. I'm not allowing that. This isn't happening. I don't like this. That's it. And you have nothing to say about it. Do not get
Nothing.
between me and my kid, because I'll go through you like you're not even there.
You will disintegrate.
Yeah,
It's
like
true. And I think there, to bring it into the world here in the United States, they're starting to do stuff like that. Government's trying to intervene. If your kid says that, I'm 9 years old, I think I'm a girl. My son thought he wanted to be a bird. Okay, I didn't put feathers on his ass. I was like, okay, you can dream about being a bird and all that stuff too, but you ain't gonna be a bird, baby. You're a person.
Wait, Dean, you didn't go to the feed store and start throwing bird feed on the kitchen floor for your kid and turn his room into a cage and put newspaper on the floor? You didn't do that?
I didn't do that. Thought about it. No. But no, didn't do that. And, and he wasn't at the ability. He didn't have the ability, the mental capacity to make that decision. And so they talk about that sort of stuff now. It drives me bananas. It just drives me bananas. Parents know best. And if there are bad parents too. There are abusive, bad parents who abuse their children, and there needs to be a safety net in there for that. But but when you're starting to take control of parenting from the parents, it's a real problem. It's a real problem. And they're doing it trying to do it too often these days. I think government, and it makes me crazy.
And like you said, there are bad parents, and the things that the government and these groups are trying to push, they don't happen unless a parent allows it. You have a lot of control over your child's life until they are 18. You have total control. So to allow some entity to come in and tell you that they know better, or this is what your kid needs to be doing, or if they give you the slightest inclination that they want to be something they're not, you better hit it full force or we'll come and get them. No, you won't. You're not. You are not taking my child and taking them to wherever you take them and whatever. No, that's not happening. I know what's right. I'm no scholar, but that's not right.
Yeah,
that's
right and wrong, and your kid, no question.
So, continuing this vein of parenting, your dad, as you mentioned, a great director. Had he not been a director, and I know your mom was an actress, but let's say they weren't bitten by the acting bug or the directing bug, where do you think you would be? Do you think you would still have gone into acting, or do you think we might have seen Officer Kane? You're a police officer. Do you think you might have gone that route? Where would you have seen yourself had you not, gone the route that you did?
It's interesting. I never thought about acting as a career or going into that when I went to college, I was either I wanted to be a pro football player, and I figured I'd figure out what I wanted to be while I was in college. My dad was making movies. He was directing Young Guns when I was in college, and I still hadn't decided what I was going to do. I started leaning toward it because it just seemed like a lot of fun. I mean, when those guys were out there making Young Guns, and these are all kids I grew up with. I grew up with Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen. These are kids that I knew forever, and then they get to go out there and be cowboys and run around, and it was cool, and it was fun, and it was movies made you feel something. I was like, that's pretty cool. I was looking at what my friends were doing in the summers from Princeton. They were going to New York City and putting on suits and ties and working 80 hours a week on Wall Street in the hot New York summer. I was like, that sucks. I don't find any interest in finance or this, or that doesn't excite me. So I started thinking about that more then, and I was like, okay, that's a cool field and I like it. I think if I hadn't been exposed to it, I probably would not have ended up anywhere near that field. I wasn't, as a young person, I wasn't wanting to perform. I wanted to do it athletically and so on and so forth. I might have just gone through the route I did. I ended up in the NFL. So maybe I, wouldn't have gotten hurt, and maybe I would have been a professional football player for a while, and then moved into sort of broadcasting or something like that. But then there's still that you can still make that leap from broadcasting to acting too. But I could very well have seen that happen. I could easily have seen myself going military. Absolutely could have gone military and or law enforcement. The tough part about law enforcement is our poor officers get paid nothing. They don't get paid. I've been an officer for 7 years now, I think, and I certainly don't get paid for it. But I do it because I know how important it is for our society to have these men and women who are the people that will come when you call them, when you need help. And, officers don't see you at your best. They're only there when the worst stuff is happening. And it's just a really thankless, dangerous job. And I joined up when the whole defund the police movement started gaining steam and becoming the current zeitgeist. And everybody thought that was cool. Let's reimagine policing. Yeah, reimagine policing. Policing should be done with the support of the community and clear lines of right and wrong. And that's it. And then, when an officer is out of hand, just comply. And then once it's over, you submit a report saying what went wrong. That they take that that hurts an officer a lot. I know, I've seen it. And it's not, you get a couple of those things, you're out, you're gone, and bad officers will get weeded out. But you have to comply at that point in time. I've had negative contact with law enforcement. It sucks. It makes you, it boils your blood. But if you understand the process, and it's not hard to figure out the process, comply, and then come in and complain, and then they will correct. That's the way it works. What they're doing now, disrespecting police now in ways that I can't even, it's insane. It's crazy. They're up in their faces, calling them every name in the book and trying to provoke a response from them. It's gotten to the place where a lot of officers don't want to be proactive. They don't even want to react. They just want to stay out of trouble. Yeah. They want to stay out of trouble, but then somebody gets shot and there's a shooting, and then some brave officer comes whipping in and ends it. And that's life and death stuff. And that's the kind of people those officers are. They run to the trouble, and they will be there even if you badmouth them. So in my book, they're heroes. So yeah, I could have ended up going that route, except for the pay just sucks so much, and I like nice things. But I didn't know. I never did anything. I never aspired to like tremendous money or anything. I didn't think about that as a kid. I grew up in Malibu, California, which is a gift in its own right. And I grew up in a trailer park. Now, trailers in that park now sell for a couple $1 million, but it's not about the trailer. Yeah. It's about the location right next to the water, and the weather's so great. I'm stunned that these things go for that amount. It's crazy. But I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money. We had very little money, but you didn't need money to go surfing. To get a surfboard, you need some money, and I could make that by working at the ice cream shop, you know what I mean? Or whatever it is. And so there was ways to get things done, but money wasn't important. I didn't care there was no Louis Vuitton bag. There was no, did you have Cadillac wheels? I had the clay wheels on my skateboard. That's how old I am. But I remember when I got the Cadillac wheels, man, I thought that was the greatest thing ever. That was the greatest gift I had ever received. I have a picture of my face. So just smiling, just big eyes and big teeth. And that was the greatest thing ever. But, we didn't need money. So I never aspired to go be in someone's big house or anything. Like that stuff never meant anything to me. And that's really fortunate. I was really lucky in that sense. I didn't care who had money or didn't. It was a status thing. It was nothing. We all lived in a trailer park. We all went to the same damn school. We all played in the same sports teams. That was it. We didn't go on vacation because we lived in a place that wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
We lived vacation. That's it. So that didn't mean anything to me. So I don't know, if I'd grown up in Malibu and not been exposed to the film world. I was different than a lot of the Malibu kids. A lot of not all of them, but there was a lot of. There's a reason Sean Penn played Jeff Spicoli so well in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, because that's every third kid I grew up with. They were stoner surfer kids, and that's it. They're still in Malibu, and they're still the same guys. I think I know who he was playing in that movie because I'm pretty sure I knew which family that came from. Spicoli was not an unknown character to me, but if you grew up in Malibu, you're around the film industry and you're around movies and stuff, so you're exposed to it. But it was never something I aspired to do until I got into my second year of college, and I realized I'm gonna have to go to work one day. And I'd grown up on sets working, but it didn't feel like work because it was my dad and the whole family was there, and I knew it was work, but it didn't feel like work. And that's one thing that's great about the film industry. Now that I've been doing it for decades and decades, it is work, but it sure beats, in my opinion, for me, it beats that 9 to 5 clock in, clock out. I don't care about my, what I'm doing. I get to make art. I get to make things that make people feel and think and laugh or cry or, get angry or learn something about this or that or whatever. So it's a really wonderful place to be. But I honestly don't think I would have found myself here if I wasn't exposed to it at a young age, and constantly exposed to it.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, you talked about growing up and everything, and the similarities between each other. You all did these things. You all surfed. You all lived in the same area. You all were the same. And it's a shame that they're trying to concentrate on our differences, or in some cases even create differences out of nowhere that we don't have with each other. We have so much more in common, even though you might come in a different color container than I did. We have a lot of similarities. Christmas, Thanksgiving, school year, summer break. People are people. And one of the many things that I was able to gain from joining the military is when you travel, you see that everybody's doing the same thing. It's on a different spot on the globe, but raising kids, getting up, going to work, having fun on the weekend. Those are all things that we all have in common, especially here in America. And speaking of the childhood, so let's say you graduated in high school in what, 84?
Yes, sir.
So let's say
for the kids out there, that's 1984.
Yeah. See, long ago.
Not 1884.
But what was, let's say 1983, 1982, 16, 17-year-old Dean Cain, Friday night. What are you and the boys getting into? What's to do for the youth in Santa Monica, California in the early to mid 80s?
Well, if it's a Friday night, baby, we had a football game to play, which was the greatest. Because I love those night, man, nothing like a Friday night game. Woo, boy, I couldn't contain myself on Friday at class.
Hold on, Dane. Let me add an addendum to that. Friday night after a win.
Oh, it doesn't hurt. You don't hurt because nothing hurts as much when you win. You lose, man, that hurts. That leg hurts a lot more. That arm hurts a lot more. It's a battle scar that you're proud to have after a victory. But we would play the games, and then I remember it was a kind of hang out around Shakey's. So that was kind of our place. There was some place in Santa Monica, Shakey's. I didn't do it that much there because I lived in Malibu. And there was a clear delineation between the Santa Monica kids and the Malibu kids because we had a long-ass way to go home. We had a long way to go. We had 40 minutes to drive to get home. And those guys were just home. And that's it. And our team... So my high school team, Santa Monica High School, our football team was half black, half white, and like 4 Mexican dudes. That was our team. It didn't matter. There were the Malibu kids and there were the Santa Monica kids, but they were almost all Santa Monica kids. There were about 5 of us Malibu kids that ended up on the team at the end of the year. So the stuff that went on out there in Santa Monica, I didn't, during football season, I wouldn't be a part of it. It was more after football season that I would sort of run around, get in trouble. There was your drinking Mickey's Big Mouth, the beers, things like that. You remember Mickey's, right?
Yeah.
We had, there were parties and things like that going around, but we were high school kids. We didn't get into that much trouble, thank God. And I always had to drive another 40 minutes and go home. So, where there wasn't a whole lot of crazy trouble going on there. I did do a couple stupid things that we're not going to talk about now, but I didn't end up in any real trouble. And I realized a couple times, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Because there were some rough kids. I mean, our fullback was arrested for grand theft auto and got out just in time to play in the playoffs. And, we had some guys, and a lot of those kids, unfortunately, my buddies that I knew and loved and fought with on the field and fought, against others, and my teammates, a lot of them ended up being drug dealers and awful things and ended up in jails. And boy, and we were this far, from each other. It's just the choices they made afterward. And, a lot of the black guys on on my team, I never knew any of their fathers. I knew their moms and grandmas, and that was it. And we'd go over to the house. I wouldn't see dad. I'd see grandma. I'd see mom. Mom was usually working and grandma was taking care of the kids, and I just saw that so often. I was like, where's dads? Where's dads? And my friends who did have good dads, those kids were, boy, straight as a whole lot, out of trouble. My buddy Alan Phillips, this guy was a genius. He and I actually went on all our recruiting trips together. Our families would get together, and his brother Tony before him had captained the UCLA football team and crushed it because we had a really good a high school team. I mean, off my high school team, my sophomore year, I think if you took all those, I think 20 something of us played Division I college
Oh
football.
wow.
Yeah, off that whole that whole, I mean, one whole side of the football team, defense, the whole defense ended up in D1. And we all did very well. It was a great team. We beat Long Beach Poly to, win the CIF championship. And I was just a lowly sophomore. And Alan was with me as a sophomore doing that. But he went to all recruiting trips together. But we were over at his house one time and I saw the Princeton thing. I saw the thing. I'm like, what is Alan? What is that? What is this one? And he's like, oh, Princeton, you didn't get your Princeton thing? I was like, no. But I fell in love with Palmer Stadium, which is our football field. It was on the cover of the thing. And I was like, what? So within a week, we were both at Princeton visiting. He chose Stanford. I chose Princeton. Great guy, great family. And that's the difference. And my other friend, great football player, could have gone and done a whole lot of great stuff, ended up being a drug dealer and, he's alive, but barely. And because he got into a bad situation, as drug dealers do. And, those choices. So it's a really, without having, it gets back to having a father, having a strong family and
Yep.
role. I mean, Alan's brother probably would have strung him. Alan's father, he ain't going to mess with Alan's father. It just wasn't going to happen. Dad was there. It was just, nope, not happening. And that made all the difference for him. I don't know how I got on this again, but it always comes back to the family, man.
That's right. It does. It's like having, a bouquet of 100 balloons on strings. All those strings still come back to the person that's holding on to them. And no matter what ills we have in society or what's going on, you can trace it back to the home. You were talking about the disrespect that police deal with nowadays. The videos from a couple years ago in New York, they're throwing water in the cops' face and spraying them with the water guns. That starts at home. Your respect for authority starts at home. Now, if you get in trouble, will you be more afraid of your parents or the police? If you have to ask yourself that question, that means somebody's doing something right at home, because I'm more scared of my dad. The police got rules. All right. They can't do nothing to me. My parents, they don't have no rules, or very few, so they can do whatever needs to be done to affect change in you. And it all comes back to home. A respect for your parents and you get in life, will have respect for your bosses, whoever, law enforcement. And like you said, if law enforcement they're doing something wrong, you're involved with the police, a traffic stop or whatever, and your blood boils, it's better for your blood to boil than to be spilled.
Yes.
Don't hold court in the street. Let them be rude. Whatever the problem is, let them. As long as you get to drive home, that's fine. Get their badge and their badge number and their name. Like you said, take the proper channels, and you could put a hurting on their career, because
real bad.
It goes both ways. Police, they are held to a higher standard, but so are the citizens. You need to act a certain way. And if you're doing your part and the cop isn't, then they need to be met with, the full extent of whatever punishment they're going to be dealing with. But same for the citizen. You need to be acting right too. Just because they have these rules that what they can and can't do, doesn't mean you can act like a jackass. It doesn't.
100%
Our rights,
true.
Our rights come with responsibilities. But one thing I was wondering while you were talking, a question popped into my mind. Being that you're of the industry for so long, can you watch a movie as a fan, or does your experience in Hollywood, are you looking at it with more of a technical eye, and you're this and that and all these little things, or can you just be a fan of a movie or a TV show, being that you've done both?
Yeah, of course. But for me, thank God, I can be a fan. If it's done really well, it's not even a question. You're just like, wow, I just want to be taken on that ride. Let's go. But then if something happens that, takes me out of the film, if there's a bad edit, if there's a weird thing, I hate that. I hate when that happens, but I can go along for the ride. I mean, I'll appreciate some of the things. I'll be like, damn, that must've been tough to film. I wonder how many days they were doing that. That looks like it's hot. How many times did they have to do this and this, or how uncomfortable is it to be covered in that stuff for 17 hours or whatever? I see those things. But it doesn't take me out of the movie. I'm right in the movie. If it's a good movie, if it's a good movie, gets you in there all the time. Bad movies, you're just like, I see everything. I see everything. And I'm just like, whatever, it is what it is. I can't really watch it. so I won't take too much time watching it. My new house here in Las Vegas, because I left California, and I'm a happy guy. My house here in Las Vegas, which is massive in comparison, palatial, I'll say, has a theater in it too. And so I moved here about 10 weeks ago, and I'm just getting things settled in pretty well. But I get at the end of next week, I'm getting my theater seating in. And you won't be able to. I think I'll do the next time we talk. I'll do it from my theater, sir.
We might as well.
No, I guess I'm so excited about having that here. So I will be watching movies in there, and get completely taken out. Right now in my office, I got a TV behind me here, but that's for sports and news, really. And because I'm an avid consumer of both. But having a theater to be able to go into and close the door and just having that full immersive experience is just awesome. So I'm going to be watching a lot more movies coming up than I have.
And some games in there. That'd be nice to watch some games in there.
Oh, yeah. You better believe it.
Man.
Oh, you better believe it. My weekends are made for Michelob, baby.
Yeah, Monday, Thursday, Sunday night.
It's only like 3 days I don't get a game.
Yeah.
And I got college games, and now you can, if I miss games, I can just go back and watch them.
Yep.
So great.
Man.
So great.
Technology. Yeah. Thank you, technology. Now,
thank you, technology.
You mentioned moving from California to Vegas. What brought about that exodus? Is it some of the same reasons that you see a lot of people leaving California? And what do you miss about California?
Nah.
If anything.
It's only been 10 weeks, so I haven't had too much time to do it. It's weird for me because I grew up in Malibu my whole life, and it always felt like home. That's home. And I can relax, and I was comfortable. I know the weather so well. I know the ground, the la tierra. I know everything about, it's like that's where I was forever. So in that sense, it's a little odd, but I've been all around the world now a lot in the last few years. I've had a home in Spain for over 20 years. And so I've learned to be comfortable in other environments and other places. This home is so wonderful. It really is it feels like my castle when I come home to it. I'm like, yes, this is nice. I love how it's put together. I love the materials. I got stone over here, open window stuff. It's just great. So I feel very at home here, but it's a weird thing to leave what I've known forever. And because I can go be somewhere. I can be somewhere for 6 months. Great. But it's not the home. And now this being home it's an odd thing. I left for all those reasons that people talk about. I left because of taxes, because of horrible policies, because of the homelessness epidemic. In California, we got 10% of the nation's population, but over 33% of the homeless. They're being encouraged by, it's so easy. They get paid to be homeless. Then you get your free drugs, open air drug market. There's no rules don't seem to apply to you. You're not getting arrested for doing this or that. I mean, like it's just, you're out on bail, cashless bail anyway. So what do you care? There's no, so there's the rules are set up for the wrong people. And, you're not being compassionate, by the way. That's not being compassionate to these people. Mm-hmm. They're dying all the time. They're causing trouble to everybody else. They're not curing and beating their addictions. They're being fed their addictions, and it's not an existence. It's horrible. So that's just one of the other terrible policies. All the crime is out of control.
Yeah.
Horrible DAs like George Gascon, just terrible, not putting people away. They caught in my old neighborhood in Malibu, which is a very affluent neighborhood. There was a couple people, got robbed, and they caught the people who did it. They didn't prosecute them. I'm like, they didn't break into my house because I got bang bangs. Yeah. You break into my house, it goes bang, 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 bang. And then I'm not having that. Nuh-uh. My family here, stuff. No, not happening. I've got some less lethal stuff. I don't go for that first. Depends on how surprised I'd be. But you coming in my house, that's it. You're threatening my family. That's not, and that every person should have that right, by the way. But the policies in California, the taxes, energy tax on gas, tax on everything. You know, I watched the natural gas coming in as well. You know, you fill up your car. It was $150 for me to fill up my truck, you know, stuff like that. Just ridiculous. And they're all done because there's these additional taxes placed on it, gas tax, things like that, that was supposed to go towards, you know, fixing the roads. It doesn't. Huh. You know, it doesn't. The roads in California are not the best roads on, you know, it's nope. not. And by a long shot. And you got a bunch of shyster politicians in there just giving everybody the shaft and putting these stupid policies forward. I just had enough of it. My son was kind of the catalyst for me because he was like, Dad, he went to college in North Carolina. He finished up there, graduated in May. And we were talking about, I literally said, I'm never going to leave my house in California. It's like paradise out there, right? The weather's only thing that is I sort of miss in that sense is the weather, because it's the most temperate on the planet in Malibu. I mean, you go over the hill to the valley in Westlake and, you know, and Calabasas, man, it was hot as it is in Vegas. So I was like, well, it's not that different out here, the weather, but you don't have the ocean, you don't have that Malibu coolness, if you will. 72 and sunny again. Oh wow. That's literally what it was. And tomorrow will be 71 and sunny. Thursday is looking like 73 and sunny. It's just the same thing, and it was just beautiful. But you know, I just there yesterday too. I just came back again. I didn't miss it. I was sitting in traffic, you know, driving along. I literally posted on Twitter, I don't miss this, sitting in traffic. I mean, I had time to take out my phone and record myself because I'm going 2 miles an hour every other, you know, minute. And then I'm stopped on the freeway. I'm like, it doesn't happen out here in Las Vegas. So I notice I'm a whole lot happier. I have a whole lot more time. Life is so much easier out here. Malibu has 6 restaurants, you know, within 3 minutes of my house, there are 60, you know, it's crazy out here. All the sports, all the shows, I travel all the time. It's so easy for me to get to the airport. It's just life. Life is 10 times easier. I'm so much happier. They don't have as many stupid rules and regulations as they do in California. It's business friendly. There's no personal income tax, 13%. Don't have to do that, baby. Property taxes are lower. Schools are better. I mean, everything about it. I don't have any young kids anymore, but it's my parents live here as well. They're 5 minutes away. It's just awesome. I mean, the shows alone, man. I mean, you go in California, you want to go to SoFi Stadium to go see a game or go see a concert or something. You better leave 3.5 hours beforehand. It's going to cost an arm and a leg to park. It's going to take you forever to get there. Don't even try to leave. That's why people in LA leave before the game's over, because they try to beat traffic. You know, here it's made for it. It's like made for you to get in there and get out, and it's all orderly, and it's not. So it's like going to a game, going to a concert, going to a show, going to dinner, anything. It's just done right. And so I really love that. And nobody ever visited me in Malibu. Like my friends would be like, hey man, I'm out here. I'm in LA. You know, I'm staying in Hollywood. You know, let's get together, have a drink. I'm like, man, that's 3 hours. That's 2 hours here. The drive out there. Then I was like, no. I want to come out to Malibu. They're like, I can't get out there. So I don't see anybody out here. People are like, yo, man, I'm gonna be in Vegas next week. Let's have a drink. They're not staying with me. They're at a hotel. I just go down there, meet them. We have a drink. It's like the easiest thing in the world. Hey, what's up? I caught up with so many people that I haven't seen in the longest time, and everybody comes through Vegas. Yeah, everybody comes to Vegas. So it's been awesome in every single way. I also love to wager a little bit on some sports. I like to play some poker, you know, and that's all here. So it's just like, why not? Why not be here? I'm happy as a clam. I can't wait to shoot some movies out here. I can't wait to bring some movies out here. Again, you know, the cost of doing business is so much less regulation, so much less pitfalls, and it's gorgeous. I mean, I love the mountains here that surround the Las Vegas Valley. I mean, I'm over the moon happy about it. And your dollar goes so much further. So it's, I mean, I bought this house I'll just, without putting numbers out, people always can research and find that stuff, but for millions less than I sold my house. And it's 10 times the house. This house in my spot that I lived in Malibu, $40 million.
Oh yeah.
50. Yeah, it's crazy.
I saw. Yeah, I did a little research on that, and yeah, it's a very palatial is a good way to describe it. Now, you mentioned traveling, and you travel a lot. How might your airplane travel differ from mine? What does it look like when Dean Cain needs to come? Let's say he needs to go to ComicCon San Diego 2023. He wants to be there for the day. What does it look like? Dean Cain's up in the morning, headed to the airport. How does that go?
Well, there happens to be this lovely airline that I like to travel on to local places like San Diego,
Uh-huh.
called JSX, which is basically a private aircraft.
Uh-huh.
But it costs just a little bit more than it doesn't cost that much more than a Southwest ticket, to be honest. I mean, it's easiest thing in the world. You get there that particular time when I met with you in San Diego Comic-Con. My son got a little. I'll take you to the airport, Dad, because it's only 20 minutes away.
Nice.
In LA, he's not taking me to the airport, and I'm going to spend a couple $100 just to get to the airport on a ride, or I'm going to drive myself. And when I come back from a weekend or a day, whatever, it's going to be $50, $80, $100, whatever. So it just costs. So my son was going to drive me. He drove me to the airport, 20 minutes away. He was late though, because he's a kid. He's 23. My flight was 8:45 in the morning. I arrived to the airport at 8:37. Showed him my little thingy, Mahuma. They gave me my little pass. I walked onto the airplane. We took off. I had a cup of coffee on the jet.
Oh, of course.
Landed in San Diego, and then we went and picked you up.
Yeah.
After you had spent hours doing.
Yeah, I travel differently.
Yeah. Basically the same trip, same distance away from each other from San Diego. And I did it in about an hour and 30 minutes, the whole trip. Everything till I was on the ground in San Diego from when I left my house was about an hour and a half. And yours was almost the same, wasn't it?
It was the same distance and it took the same time, but I'm willing to bet I wasn't on the plane with you, but I'm willing to bet that you weren't sitting next to a talkative guy named Steve who owns a hot dog stand, were you? Because
nobody was sitting next to me because you get your private spot here. Yeah. No, well, I didn't.
I had talkative Steve. So,
but how early did you get to the airport before your flight?
Oh, like 2 hours.
So I'm talking about an hour and a half from my house to the time I was in San Diego.
No, it wasn't like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But that's what I'm striving for. That's what I'm striving for.
And there was no hot dog dude next to me because you know what? There was nobody next to me. A beautiful the air hostess came and brought me a nice cup of coffee. And then we went, then you and I sat in line waiting to get a coffee and some food. We were in line longer than it took me to fly over there.
Damn it, we sure were. This right here, people, was forged in about an hour and 45 minutes of being in line at Starbucks. And we get, people, we got there early, people are hungry. Hey, let's go grab some Starbs, as the kids call it. So we wait in the first line for about 45 minutes to get to the front. All I see is cake pops, coffee cake, lemon bars. That's not going to cut it. We needed something that used to have a face, We needed to eat some flesh. So we checked are you sure they have breakfast sandwiches at the other Starbucks? There were two. He said yes. So we go over there, we get in line, another hour. Great time. We're talking with each other just like we're old buddies. It was fine, but it took a long time. And we finally got up there. And shout out to those women. They were cranking full speed, all female staff. They were doing their thing.
But they started running out of sandwiches just after us. Not saying we had too many sandwiches. I'm not saying we bought them all, but we bought a couple extras.
Yeah, we made a dent, and that's fine. If you run out after us, I can't say I'm going to shed a tear on that one. But yeah, it was a lot of fun hanging out. And one thing that was cool, I think I mentioned this to you. This was, I believe you said, the first time that you weren't actually working a Comic-Con. You were just there as Joe Q Public, had the hat, the shades. And it was a trip to notice people, notice you, but you can almost see them convincing themselves that that's not you because you would be sitting on a panel or somewhere, you'd be at a booth. wouldn't be standing here in line at Starbucks. I saw that a few times where people kind of, no, nah.
I was
And they would keep
cosplaying as
walking.
me.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. But some people did come up to you. I remember the lady who brought you gifts at the bar that we had our Q&A at, and it was cool the way you handled it, you know. And I'm sure that's something you've been through thousands of times. Thousands of people come up to you, I love the show, or you did this, you helped me through this, you helped me through that, and to see you handle it like it was the first time, like they were the first person to ever come up to you and tell you that, and how gracious you were, was very cool. In the face of, you know, when I was doing some research and stuff, the Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman would get 15 million viewers. That is crazy.
Households.
Yeah, that's household. So there could have been, you know, mom, dad, kids, whatever in there, or people could have come over to watch the show every week. That's an unbelievable amount of people. And to be on that level, whether you put yourself there or not, or whether the people did, to be that famous and be viewed by that many eyeballs every week, and to still be regular dude, you know, that's really awesome, man. That's really cool. And I'm glad, because, you know, people say don't meet your heroes, don't meet people you're fans of. Well, I say if you're a fan of Dean Cain and you have an opportunity, meet him.
Come on now.
Great dude.
Thank you. It's the best thing in the world for me, is that when someone tells me a story about how because I watched shows with my son growing up. There were things we'd watch and bond over. And that's the thing, is when I say households, it's because those were households, because I hear these stories constantly from people, whether it's at a ComicCon or on a street or, on an airplane or anywhere. They tell me stories of how that show affected them when they were young. They were either watching it with their grandmother who has passed, or their parents, or they'd watch the show and then call their best friend, the next day, or they talk about it in class and they couldn't wait it was like appointment television. It was a big deal to their lives. And I know how important it is. There's some people, like my son's met everybody, world leaders, politicians, actors, athletes. He's like, nah, right. And he's seen people come up to me and he's like, man, it's dad, whatever, no big deal. But I know when it's a show that he loves or that affects him, and he sees somebody, he's like, oh, wow. And I see that, how he's excited by that. And how he'd be so disappointed if that person was a jerk or didn't appreciate the appreciation. So I am very aware of that. And I'm very, it's genuine, because when somebody says that you helped me get through, I was bullied in high school, but your character and the show helped me get past that. It's amazing. It's incredible to me, because we didn't have any interaction back in the day when we shot the show. We were basically sequestered on the Warner Brothers lot for 9.5 months. I mean, I would average about 6 hours of sleep a night, and I would take a nap, in between scenes or something during the day. But, I'm doing that in my Superman outfit. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, you're at work, you're always going. So we didn't get any reactions. The internet was in its infancy, so we didn't have online presence or all that sort of stuff. So nobody told us how the show affected them or how they liked it, or we didn't have any interaction with anybody. I didn't even know Comic-Cons existed until about 10 years ago. I didn't even know. And then started going to them, and then hearing from people, it's very humbling, but it's a wonderful feeling to know that you touched people's lives in a positive way. And I am forever thankful and appreciative. That's why listen, if you're going to be associated with a character for the rest of your life, Superman's a pretty good one to get, locked down with. You could have been Oscar the Grouch, which is, which is not as good.
Yeah. You could live in a trash can.
Yeah.
Totally. I wanted to ask you, speaking about, playing Superman and everything, started in 93. So the newly 57-year-old Dean Cain, if he could go back and have 5 minutes with Dean Cain in 1993, what is, other than telling him to invest in Apple, and
I knew that back then. I did know that, and I should have invested in Parker.
Yeah, invested in Amazon and Apple. But maybe what's something you might tell him about the path that he's about to go on? This is a big deal. This is huge. It's gonna be huge. Um, is there anything you would say to Dean Cain to yourself in 1993?
It's something I would say. It's kind of, there's a poem called Desiderata. Are you familiar with that?
No.
And it basically, it's a very old. I mean, this goes back thousands of years. I mean, I don't even know, 1642 or something, was found on the side of a church. I forget the exact. I should have probably, before mentioning this, I probably could have done my homework on it because it's a poem that talks about where you are in life and how I'm gonna pull it up. I have to pull it up because it's so great. It's so great. I'm pulling it up right now. Desiderata. I would have said this. The original text is right here, and it says, this is what I would tell me back then. It says, "Go placidly amid the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even to the dull and the ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexatious to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain or bitter. For always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs. Invest in Apple." Oh, no, that part's not in there.
No way.
Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself. Do not feign affection. Neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. It's almost over, I promise. Take kindly to the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful, strive to be happy. That's it. That's the same advice I would have given myself. That poem was on a set in Lois and Clark, and I don't know where it actually comes from originally. It said it was found on some church somewhere. That I always go to that. Always, to this day. There's so many pieces of just gold in there. And I would have, the short answer would have been, I would have said to myself, be kind to yourself. You're right where you should be, and everything's going to be okay. That's what I really would have told myself, which is kind of what that entire thing is about. But it's just, you're all the stresses and anxieties that you go through and all the confusion. I remember doing the show. It got to be it was so tough because there was no life outside of it. I couldn't see beyond. It was like the first time I was in football camp in college. It was super hot. We were having the hottest, we called it Camp Auschwitz, which obviously I've been to Auschwitz now and it doesn't compare, but to us, that's what it felt like because people were just dropping every day. Heat exhaustion. I had an asthma attack out there and I thought I was going to die. And I mean, it was awful, but I also thought it would never end because I couldn't see an end to it. And that was like being in Lois and Clark. I just felt like it would never end. I never had a minute. Because all day, every day, I was out there playing that role, doing that stuff. Never had a minute to just go, we'd start at 5 a.m. on Monday and we'd finish at 7 a.m. on Saturday. We'd have every Friday night, we'd be shooting all night until the sun came up. And so you're flipping your schedule around. It was just really tough. And as tough as it was for us as actors, the crew was there before us. and they're breaking out. I don't know how they had any lives anywhere. It was tough. I mean, sure, they could get out of a day here or there because they could get a doctor's appointment. We couldn't, but they, those were also men and women with, with families and lives outside of all I had. I was 26 when we started doing it. I didn't have anything, but I had my family, but they'd come visit me on set if they want to see me, but I didn't have any kids. I wasn't, there was none of that going on. But I think that Desiderata poem is exactly the advice I would give myself and or anybody. Yeah. If you can follow that, it makes life a more peaceful existence, and there was things I was concerned with then at 1993, 94, that if I could see that I was here now, I'd go, okay,
yeah,
everything's gonna be okay. So bring that anxiety level down a little bit. You're gonna be just fine.
Did you ever find, after, you mentioned it is back in the early 90s, so before we were all plugged into each other and you could find out everything, you can get like a picture of your favorite actors, stool sample or something if you wanted to. Before all that, was there ever a moment that after the fame hit, the word is out, this is a hit show, people know who you are, people are fans, was there ever a time where you thought, this is a lot, this maybe not too much, because you were conditioned for this growing up and everything, and like that poem said, you are where you're supposed to be, so you're able to handle where you are, but was there a time where you're like, this is a lot, man? And maybe not so much the physical being awake weird hours and stuff like that, but just the pressure of stardom.
Yeah, the pressure of stardom never really bothered me that much. Maybe because my college girlfriend was Brooke Shields, and I watched it happen. Then and as much as I thought I might have been living under a microscope ever, I've never seen anybody under a microscope like her. And I saw how that would affect her and how she would be a captive to that to some degree. But her fame was unlike anything almost that anybody's ever seen. So I was aware of that. So coming into the fame part that wasn't it. It was the constant. Well, you lose your anonymity completely. I mean, you can't go play like a basketball game, pick up basketball game, and and not get somebody blocks your shot. Get that out of here, Superman. You can't ever get away with that stuff ever. Nothing. I don't like to fly. I'd be on an airplane if I'm not enjoying it. What Superman's not afraid of, whatever. That stuff gets you all the time. I did the fame didn't bug me. I guess maybe also because I was a football player, and when you're a football player, you're known, and you're, especially if it's important to your school. And so that didn't. It wasn't that. It was about the free time. That was the biggest pressure I felt, and also being on a show that I'd watch it happen to my friends. I watched Sean Penn become very famous. I watched Charlie Sheen become very famous, Emilio Estevez, all these guys becoming very famous, Rob Lowe, and doing their things, Holly Robinson. These are all kids I grew up with. So that part of it was kind of like, okay, I get that going on. And I don't do a whole lot of crazy stuff, I don't do drugs. I'm not going to be, breaking the law, doing these things. That's not going to be what I do. So that part really wasn't it. It was more about, when I started, there was 3 networks: ABC, NBC, CBS. So that's why we get so many viewers and so much going on. And I hadn't been part of the machinery, the machine that makes that show. The man, all the photo shoots, and they shoot all week, and then on the weekends do promo stuff, go on talk shows, go on photo shoots for magazines and so on. What's it like growing up? What's it like being in my life right now? I just work. That's just it. That's the whole life. That's how boring the interview should have gone, but you don't get to do that. And I remember, having pictures everywhere all the time. I remember early on when it all sort of started, because you can tell somebody what's going to be, and you never know until it happens. You just can't. Hey, kids, the fire's hot. Don't touch it. It'll burn you. You got to get burned to know what it really feels like. So it was a point in time where I'd be in my room, in my bed, sleeping. And I was going, I woke myself up going, no more pictures. No more pictures. I remember this happening.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
It's affecting my sleep, everything. I felt like I couldn't sleep without having pictures taken. And I remember waking up to that realization going like, no more pictures. And I was like, I'm in my bed. I was like, oh God. Ooh, but I also
Wow.
knew I only have this much more time to sleep, so you better get to sleep right now. And so that kind of pressure, it's tough. Doing a series like that, it's super, super tough. Um,
Dude,
it's
I've never heard it described like that. That is wild.
it's not all
Wow.
sunshine and roses, baby.
Wow. I mean, it was nothing like that, but I remember when I went to the front sight school, weapons training and stuff, everything was hand on your chest, reach for your weapon. And I remember waking up with my hand on my chest in the position to pull the gun. So something like that. But to wake up saying no, no more pictures, that is crazy, Dean.
It was nutty. I realized that
Wow.
I'm like, oh boy, you
Wow.
gotta better start to compartmentalize this stuff better
Yeah, yeah.
because it can take over. That's why, yeah, it's why you see so many actors. Well, first of all, they're actors, so they're emotional to begin with, and certain type of person to be an actor. Really, I was never drawn to the acting. I was drawn to the action and the fun and the excitement of it. It wasn't so much about the acting, and then it becomes more as I've gotten older. It's more about that. I'm aware of the mental parts of it. Some people are just naturally. Charlie Sheen was just naturally an actor. He just naturally isn't training, and that he's Charlie being Charlie stuff, and he's just good at it and acting. He just always was naturally. That wasn't my thing. But then as time has gone on, I appreciate it more and more, and I appreciate great people's acting. But I know where I fit, and I know where I'm happy, and I know what I like doing. So I'm not trying to be Daniel Day-Lewis. I don't ever want to be Daniel Day-Lewis. I would let him be him. But being able to compartmentalize it all, life is the most important thing, and enjoying the people you're with. And I can see how these young kids, achieving stardom today in this world of social media and influencers and all that crap, it can destroy you. And it's destroying so many of our young people. And so that social media, there needs to be it needs to be put in its place. That poem again. Go back to the Siddhartha, which I realized it wasn't centuries old. Apparently, it was written in 1920s by Max
Sure,
Ehrman
sure
in the
feels like it
1920s.
was written,
It felt to me like
a
it was written
millennia
way
ago.
back in the day,
Yeah.
but
Wow.
I was wrong on that one. But so
That's a hell of a
valuable.
way to put it, man. That's a hell of a way to put it. I'm never going to forget that. That really encapsulates that feeling, man. Like it was so ingrained in you that it, you physically you woke yourself up. That's wild, man.
My
That
hands
really
were out too. I was like, no more pictures. No pictures. I was like,
is.
hell am I
Wow.
doing? You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to wrap it up with this, man, because I feel that this is a really important question, and this is a perfect segue. Social media and only seeing, you know, the middle piece of cake of somebody's life. That's the best piece of the cake, right in the middle, and that's all you see. You only see the vacation and the 20th shot that they've taken. You don't see all the other ones. You don't see what's around them in their house. You just see that background that they've put up that they want you to see.
That
So
facade, baby.
to young men who might be thinking, man, I can't compete with that because all I'm seeing are these girls that look like this, that are living their best life. And I hate those new sayings and phrases, but you see them doing that. And some young man who might not have confidence because of that or other things, or they're unsure of their ability to talk to women. And you mentioned Brooke Shields. And kids, for those of you who don't know who Brooke Shields is, supermodel.
Shame on you, first of all.
Yeah, that's a shame. Hit yourself on the back of your other hand and put your nose in the corner for 10 minutes because you don't know who Brooke Shields is. Supermodel, beautiful woman, one of the most beautiful women in the world. Gabrielle Reese, you might know her. She's a bit of a volleyball head, if you will. So you've had some very beautiful women in your life. And yes, you're famous. Yes, you have Dean Cain's face. So that helps. But to a young man, if he were to come up to you and say, Dean, how do I pick up a woman? What do I say? What do I do? Help me. What do you say to those men who are afraid to approach women?
I say, and it's going to sound cliche, be yourself. literally just be yourself. I've never had a pickup line, in my life ever. I've seen them. They're hysterically funny if you put them on like social media, but it's all bullshit. I mean, it's all bullshit. At the end of the day, if I saw someone that I wanted to meet or approach, I would just say hi. I mean, I was at the gym yesterday and I couldn't feel, this girl had this shirt on. I wasn't hitting on her, but I wasn't afraid to say hi to her, but I was trying to figure out what her shirt was. And it was because it was American flag, which I'm a big proponent of, and I love that flag, and I love what it stands for, and I love what the blood that's been shed for this flag, and I have tremendous respect and for the military men and women, and my parents, my grandparents, all military, my uncles, aunts. So I just said, I couldn't see what it said. I was trying not to stare at her chest, you know what I mean? We're in the gym, but I was like, I go, what is the flag, whatever. And it said freedom. Oh my gosh, now I'm screwing it up. But it was kind of funny saying, but it was like, it was a freedom, free country, but it was like turning like cunch, or just the way like some people would talk, like free country, right? Like free country, right? And that's what it was. But it was like, it was awesome, but I couldn't figure out what it was. But I just spoke to her, and she was very nice. I mean, like, if the kids who are thinking, I got to go meet this supermodel, blah, don't. Not because you're catching that middle piece of the cake, all that stuff. It's all baloney. And I've been fortunate enough to be around and have relationships with some of the most beautiful women on the planet, and they're amazing. Also, I wouldn't care what my partner did. It doesn't make a difference to me. That beauty, I'm not saying in any particular cases of people that I've been with, because there are gorgeous. I mean, Brooke is one of the most beautiful women ever. Gabrielle, absolutely just stunning in every way and lovely, but human beings, you know what I mean? So we all are human beings, and there's nobody above anybody else. So be yourself, say hello. There's nothing more attractive than confidence. And if you know who you are and what you're about, and you work hard and you're humble and just be yourself, say hello. If they go, F off, then then you wouldn't want to be around that person. So just be nice, friendly, say hello, and strike up a conversation for anything. No lines. Don't have that. Don't use your big watch to do that. Don't try to, just be a nice person. A smile. Like I always say, the sexiest thing a woman could have on ever is a smile. I see that, I'm just like, whew. And I see a big, beautiful smile. That's the first thing I look for. Very first thing. And that tells me someone's a happy person and a good person, whatever. I mean, I remember even how I met Brooke. I met her beforehand. We had met and known each other for a while. We kind of dated for a little bit, then didn't. And there's a lot that goes with dating Brooke, especially in college back then. But I remember I just came in one day. We were in the same eating club. It's like a social club. We eat our meals there and stuff as well. And I had a great day, like great stuff had just happened. And I walked in just as happy as can be. I remember I kind of popped through into the thing. And I was just like, yeah, something went really well on an exam, and I'd done something else. Boom. I was like, oh, I ran into her, and I was like, and I remember I just grabbed her and kissed her, but not in a weird, but I remember her eyes looked at me differently too. Because I wasn't doing it because it was her. I wasn't hitting on her. It wasn't something going on, but I was just damn happy and stuff was going well. And I remember I caught a little look out of the side of my eye from her after that. And I knew, ding, 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 ding. She's picking on me now. But it's that thing. And that for me, that's the kind of person that I want to be around. And so that's what kind of gets me. So for these guys, the social media stuff, look, nobody's life is perfect. What you see on social media is 90% baloney, because everybody has trouble. I mean, for everything, everybody does. And you want that person who's going to be there when things are bad. I saw something on social media this morning. This girl she couldn't walk, and there was something, she had all these different things. And it was from the very first time she's trying to get up and stand, her legs are just doing this thing and she couldn't stand on them, to her at the very end of this thing with her physical therapist walking. And I mean, I'm just, that to me, that's life. And that's the important thing. Like that person, whoever she is, her character is probably so strong. That's attractive. Here I am at my worst, and look at all this hard work so I could just walk.
Mhm.
Just walk like something you take for granted every day.
Yeah.
So I think, social media blows everything out of proportion, and it's about, I want planes, and I want to be in the private jets, and I want to, there's even got guys. I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but there was somebody who was posting their, posting them walking up to the private jet. I'm headed to Milwaukee or wherever they were going, and then somebody takes a picture of that same person on a commercial flight, like was just fronting that they were getting on the private jet. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah. Come
It's
on,
not
man.
about that. You don't need to push it that way and do that. And so don't try to compete with those things. Just be yourself. That's the most attractive, because at the end of the day, that facade goes away and you're
Yeah.
stuck with just you, and everybody's stuck with just them, that person looking back in the mirror. That's the thing. And social media influencers, that whole show. I mean, I've seen, it's a very unattractive quality to me for someone to put it on, for the cameras or whatever. I won't name names here, but I was talking to this actress. We were at a premiere, super nice. I have dozens of stories like this, but she was super nice. We were just ended up sitting near each other, and we just enjoyed talking. When we walked out of the theater, we weren't together or anything like that. We just happened to be walking out at the same time. But I saw all the cameras and things, and I kind of was just trying to go over here just to get out. She saw the cameras and just put it on. And she
Oh,
wasn't in the movie. It wasn't her movie, but I was like, ooh, she went from this attractive to me to just, ooh.
yeah.
And I just was like,
Not a good
ooh,
look.
no,
Mm.
just be. But some people just live for that stuff. And I would
Mhm.
caution anybody to avoid that. If you see someone like that, you think, oh my God, she or he is so perfect and their life is so wonderful, I just want to be like them. No, you don't. Because that's just that middle piece of the cake that's so nice and whatever, but it's not. It's really not, because there's all the rest around it,
Mhm.
it's not anything that you think. Just be yourself. The best pickup line in the entire world is hello or
You heard
hi.
it, fellas. You heard it from someone who, has dated some of the most beautiful women that this planet has ever seen. Be you. There's only one you. So be you. Don't be afraid. Be confident. And I hope there are some people out there who that touches and who that resonates with, because you know uh, I think any man has a little trepidation when they're talking to women, because it's a woman. They're everything that comes with it. Going back to sixth grade, standing across the dance floor at this girl you want to talk to. There's a time where you got to get up some nerve, but
Yep.
get that nerve and just do it.
Oh, what?
Just
Just
do
open
it.
the line. Hi. That's it.
Hey, how you doing?
Just you get now. Oh, and she goes, oh, I'm fine. Even if she goes, I'm fine. Whatever. Look, you still had interaction. It
Yeah,
happened. It's
yeah.
there.
Put that under your belt. So yeah, stack them
Yeah, I don't
up,
think we
guys.
see
Stack
those
those
movies
wins.
anymore. I don't think those movies are out there anymore. Can't buy me love, stuff like that.
Oh man.
That kind of stuff, man. I mean, that's the greatest stuff. And then you realize, hey, there's just a regular person and whatever. So say hi, people. Don't be afraid of that stuff. But
Yeah, break
there's
that
something
ice.
magical about that moment, though. You want to go say hi to that person. You're just staring at them. You're hi, you
Yeah.
bump into them. That's magic, man. We all hope for that. And there are people who get my heart thumping.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna say who, whatever.
Not
Not
yet.
yet. I never tell.
But what do you have going on, Dean? What do people need to go out and search for under the Dean Cain umbrella?
Man, it's funny because we're on strike now. SAG is on strike, but you can make movies if they have an interim agreement with the
Hmm.
Screen Actors Guild. And I'm also a writer, all that stuff. And I have one of the things I like when I was in school, I was a football player, but I didn't go to like the eating club. I didn't go to the football player eating club. I played volleyball too. Um, but I didn't hang out with just the volleyball players. I didn't hang out with just the football players. I always doing a lot of different things, and I don't do it to like it's authentic to me. I mean, even though I was in high school, there was this kid, Kent Carruthers, and he suffered from muscular dystrophy. A lot of the guys wouldn't hang out or be around him, but he would sit and have lunch with me and my girlfriend. We would sit, and and if people were going to mean to Kent, then we were going to have a problem because
Hmm.
no, and I didn't have to be with the cool kids and all that. So I kind of always just been around people I want to be around and do what I want to do. It's never been an issue. It has never been hard for me to do. And I like to be involved in a lot of different things. I don't want to just, even when I was doing Lois and Clark, I couldn't just be the actor. I wrote episodes of the show. I was always trying to do a little something else and a little of this, a little of that. I was always asking the cameraman, what's it? I just was curious about all the things that are going around. So I wanted to be a part of so many different things. So instead of just being an actor, I write, I produce, I direct music videos, movies, whatever. I've done a movie that I wrote, produced, directed, and starred in called Little Angels. We're still figuring out how we're going to distribute that. We've had a lot of offers to do so. It's driving me nuts because I want it out now because it's finished and I'm so proud of it and excited about it. And the Women's World Cup just happened and it involves girls soccer. And so I was like, oh man, I want to get it out there. So that's driving me bananas, but I love the film. So Little Angels, you can check it out, littleangelsmovie.com, and you can see a little music video that has a lot of scenes from the movie in it. That's one project. I'm developing a series right now, a limited series that I would only do 6 or 9 episodes a year on. And I think it's a great concept, but I can't talk about that. I've got this amazing graphic novel coming out in the end of the winter called Dean Cain, All-American Lawman. I wish I had I have a little card with it right here with me, but I don't have it with me. That I'm super excited about with Gabe El Taib, who you know very well.
Yes.
You guys have your podcast together, and which is awesome. And I've been on that. Very proud to have been on that. And Akeon does all the illustrations. It's phenomenal. It's a lot of fun. Comes out at the end of the probably in the wintertime. So that gives us a murky area. Wintertime should be out, but we're working hard on that. And it's a lot of fun. It's a throwback to the old 80s movies that you guys talk about too. And it's got that good and who's good, who's evil. It's fun, action, adventure, but it's not graphic like sexuality or horrible violence or anything like that. It's the good stuff like Romancing the Stone and Indiana Jones. And so it's a lot of fun. I'm really having a good time with that. I'm working with 2 gaming companies. I'm working with True Play Games, TRUPLAY, which is amazing. It's a Christian-based gaming company and platform. So it's the kind of thing where, like, if you're on video games now, it's part of what I do as a police officer. I work with the ICAC divisions, the Internet Crimes Against Children, because it's so prevalent in today's society. You don't realize you give a kid, this cell phone and they're playing games on the cell phone. Outside people, predators, have access to your kid. They take it so that predator is now in the kid's bedroom with the kid if you're not watching what they're doing online. It even goes, excuse me, to console games, Xbox, any of those things where you have multimedia sort of online stuff where people can interact and chat rooms and things. Predators are going after your children. Well, True Play Games, first of all, it's all biblically based. So I love that about what they're doing. So the messages and the morals and things are coming from the Bible, and it's wonderful, but it's not in your face. It's not all over. You're not just reading scripture or anything like that. It's these great little characters. It's kind of like what you used to do for Disney back in the day. You could sit your kid in front of the Disney Channel and it's going to be fun, family entertainment. I not so much now, but True Play, there's no predators online because there's nobody can interact online with the kid. And the stories are, the cool little characters. This is character Lucas, whose brother died, and he's a squirrel. He's a squirrel that wears a little alligator costume and he can make it fly and do all kinds of cool stuff, but he wants to make it fly up to heaven so he can see his brother and figure out why that, you can't fly to heaven. So these are the questions and the things that are being discussed. And it's really wonderful stuff for the kids. So get on trueplaygames.com, all kinds of different fun games and little stories and videos. And it's a great place. So I'm working with them. I'm on the advisory board there. I fully support what they're doing. Another gaming company called Ink Games that I work with, where you can win real life prizes by playing and collecting things. You like one of the prizes is a 10-minute, for me, I'm putting a prize out there, which is a 10-minute video call and some memorabilia and stuff like that. It's just cool stuff.
Cool.
And it's just fun. And so that's called Ink Games, like Prize Kingdoms is one of their games. That's where this is going. That's a lot of fun. I work with a group called Genesis Gold Group. Genesis, Bible again. Bible's all over the place in my life. And it's a precious metals company where you can, you can invest in gold and silver and precious metals versus what's going on with our economy. People are always asking me, how did I do so well financially? Well, because the Princeton education certainly helped. I'm not doing a series on purpose because I don't need to do a series. and you heard about the hours you have to work on a series, and I'm not willing to give up that much of my life to do so. I like going and making movies and working in all these other fields, and working with Genesis Gold Group is great too, because, you know, if you, the buying power of the dollar since 2000 has gone down like 31% or something like that. Well, the buying power of gold and the price of gold has gone up like 500%. So that's one place where I've done very well. Real estate, I've done very well as well. But, you know, if you're thinking about your retirement savings and your IRA or whatever, like I started an IRA for my sister when she was working for me during Lois and Clark, which was 30 years ago. Damn. But her IRA is now worth, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is great. But she watched it this last year. She watched it drop in value, and she's like, "What's going on?" I go, "Well, when the government's printing all that money, all it makes is every one of your dollars worth less. That's what it is. They just print it. It's not based on the gold standard anymore, and it's awful what they're doing. This administration is doing. I think it's just terrible, and it's not going to improve in any time in the near future. So I work with Genesis Gold Group. They're really respectful, and they're a wonderful group to work with. And they take care of their clients. You know, they wouldn't put the name Genesis in there if they weren't like upstanding individuals, or if they did, it would be false advertising, and it's not. So I'm working with them as well. At the same time, I'm just making movies. If they get an interim agreement from Screen Actors Guild, I'll go make movies. I'll go do those things. Especially I like to do a lot of these little faith-based movies, which take me a day. You know, I'll go give them a day. I do it for nothing. I do it to help change, you know, the JC Films, which is my buddy, Jason Campbell, excuse me. He likes to make these films that nobody would make, and he makes them for very little money. But it's like somebody in your church wants to make a story about their life. Well, MGM's not going to make that movie. You know, you're not going to get Tom Cruise to play, but I'll go be the judge who's in the courtroom, or I'll be the pastor, or I'll play a little role for a day, and he'll tell that story. And it's wonderful because he wants to change culture through making all these movies. And he makes 30 of them a year, 20 of them a year. It's great. It's wonderful. So I'll work with him whenever possible. ComicCons here and there. I'll be in Europe at most of October and September, October. It just doesn't stop, Jericho. It does not stop. That's what it feels like for me. And I like it that way. I travel a ton. I'm going to be in Spain, Italy, Czech Republic, Poland. These are the next 2 months of my life. Wow. And still watching football.
Oh, yeah, come on. Yeah,
but I watch it. But now I can record it all and then watch the games whenever I want to on my computer, which is, listen, the fact that I can do that makes me as happy as can be. I'm still playing my fantasy football leagues and stuff like that. So, I mean, life is good and wonderful and diverse, and I got so much going on. I couldn't be much happier.
That's great, man. I'm glad to hear that you're so busy, and I'll get links to all those different projects and different companies that you're working with. It'll be in the description box. And you mentioned the online crimes against children. I'm going to have somebody I'll be interviewing. They're a local assistant district attorney, and that's what they focus on. And I had lunch with them about a year ago, and man, the shout out to the investigators on these cases, the police officers who show up to these scenes, the attorneys the district attorneys and stuff who have to look at this stuff, who have to look at the images and the footage so they can prosecute these people. And he has a family. He has 3 kids. You know, it peels, you know, every time you see that, like a little prosciutto thin slice of your soul when you have to view images like that because of the things that these monsters do. So
they are
much
monsters.
Appreciation. Oh yeah, they're not human.
People don't understand it.
They're beasts. They welled up from the depths of hell. You can't believe
that they would do this. Yeah, true. You can't believe they would treat another human being this way, especially a child. That child innocence is just, and it scars forever.
Yeah,
their psyche, as well as they can function, they're still scarred, and it's just awful. And these people are monsters. You know, the movie Sound of Freedom drew a lot of people's attention to it. I've been dealing with this for 7 years. We have to see these things. We'll create a profile of a 11-year-old girl, 13-year-old boy. You know, a profile. They're a little. You can tell they're a little bit angsty. We know how to create these profiles, and within 20 minutes, we got 20, 30 people messaging him, trying to meet up with him. You know, it's just frightening as a parent that these predators are everywhere, and these devices are in everybody's hands, and that's what you really have to watch out for. Know your kids' passwords. know who they're playing games with, know what games they're playing, be there, listening in. The kid says they want privacy. The answer is no.
Oh
No,
yeah,
you don't
it's
get it.
no. I'm sorry. You're lucky you have a door in your room. And you know what? If you're a parent and that sounds like too much, you don't want to keep on top of it, then don't give them a phone. That's also an option. Don't give them a phone. Don't let them be online. We've all made it through life pretty good. I got all 10 fingers and toes. I made it without the internet. I'm just fine. There's always the outdoors. I got up. I came into the living room the other day. My son was laying on the floor, coloring a picture of me, which turned out weird, but he's doing artwork. He's coloring. He's playing. He's shooting Nerf guns. He's scaring his sister in the hallway. There are plenty of
Yes.
other things that kids can do. So if that sounds like too much, don't give them a phone.
And keep them off social media too.
Bam. Case
Don't need
closed.
that.
Yeah, I don't believe a child needs that. When you're an adult, you want to venture out there into that muck, go ahead. But as a child, you don't need that. Your little life needs to be as positive as possible, because don't you worry, adulthood is going to take a big fat dump on you when it's time.
Damn
So
right.
until then, just be a kid. Just be a damn kid. And speaking of your All American Dean Cain All American Lawman comic that's coming out, we saw last night. We did our show Double Impact, and he showed some of the storyboards. Man, Dean, come
It's
on.
gorgeous. I mean,
That shit.
I look at some of the storyboard things now. I'm like, I want to take that, just frame that. Just that right there. I want to frame it up. One thing on a motorcycle flying through. I was like, that is, I literally came in, I zoomed in close on that. I was like, that one little piece, and there's 7 things on that page, but just that one piece, I was like, I could have that. That's everything right there.
You got to get one of those pics like blown up as a poster frame. That would be so cool. Like one of the motorcycle scenes, or the scene with the fuel truck. I don't want to give too much away.
It's incredible.
It's awesome. And my son, we got done reading Truth, Justice, American Way, the comic that Gabe just finished. And I told him, all right, well, we got these coming up. And my buddy Dean Cain, All American Lawman, and he's a spy. He has the white suit, the white tuxedo jacket, and all that. I'm like, son, just wait. He's excited. I can't wait. Like you mentioned, something that you could leave your kids alone with and feel okay. And I cannot wait to read that comic book with my son. He was riveted. And you know, your son, he's a young man now in his early 20s, but when they're that age, they're like little Tasmanian devils. So if you can get them to sit and just, Dad, can you read just one more page? That's what this is going to be. I'm excited about it. I've already backed the project. People, you do the same. We have that water cooler talk, but man, I wish somebody would make something that I could leave my kids alone with to enjoy. I wish somebody, it's being done. Make sure you guys support it. Dean Cain's a good guy, putting out good projects. And I thank you for coming, man. I didn't get to all my questions. Next time, if I can get you back, we got to talk about that $10 million Bigfoot bounty.
Yes.
That sounds very interesting. But just thank you, Dean. I'm glad that we met. I'm glad that we suffered through almost 2 hours of Starbucks lines. I'm glad that we were able to ride to and from the event together. We had dinner together. We were walking with Big Baby to the restaurant. I'm happy. I'm thankful for all of it. I hope that I can count on you to come back at some time. And
absolutely.
I hope to be able, to continue to call you a friend, man. And I thank you for your time, Dean. I appreciate
it. Absolutely. Thank you. I'm honored.
My pleasure. And we will do this again, people. Make sure you check that description box for all the links to the projects he was talking about. Support. Politics are downstream from pop culture. If we can affect the entertainment and the things that are be putting out, you will see these policies follow suit. And that's what we need. Thank you for being here in the greenhouse. We out.